Now we're going to talk about ratios. Okay, so what is a ratio? A ratio is a comparison between two quantities of the same units of measurement. The ratio is simplified by dividing each of the parts by the highest common factor of the parts. I hope you realize at this point how cumulative maths is. The one thing that you learned previously, you're going to apply it going forward. So even ratios, it's very important for you to understand it because it's one thing that is used a lot in day-to-day, uses. If I could say, sometimes you get ratios when you're working with measurements. They're like, oh, the ratio of water to flour or whatever, of water to sugar should be 5 mils per half a spoon. So you need to understand it. It's used a lot in medicine, it's used a lot in engineering, in the sciences. It's everywhere. Ratios are everywhere. You really need to understand them. Even in day-to-day news, you'll hear that in this country, for every male there are 5 females. So you really need to understand quite well what a ratio is. And like you've seen here with the second sentence, that a ratio is simplified by dividing each of the parts by the highest common factor. So you need to understand what the highest common factor is, and we have addressed it. If you don't know, please go to the video of the highest common factor. Okay, so for an example, let's say you have a ratio of 6 to 4. A ratio as well can be written as a fraction. 6 to 4 will just be 6 divided by 4. But yeah, that's how you connect the two. So if you have a 6 to 4 and you wanted to simplify it, we need to go look for the highest common factor. So for 6, the factors are 1, 2, 3, and 6. And for 4, the factors are 1, 2, and 4. So if you have a look at 4 and 6, the highest common factor there would be 2. Okay, so then what do? You go back, you divide 2, okay, 6 divided by 2, and you divide 4, you say 4 divided by 2, okay, because that is the highest common factor. And when you divide it, this 6 to 4 ratio simplifies to a 3 to 2 ratio. Like I said, this is very important. Ratios are not bad. They're actually quite simple. But sometimes students do mess it up or they misunderstand, especially when you start having word sentences, okay, or word problems. So let's now see. We have a word problem over here. Okay, so dividing in a given ratio. So here we have Busani and Zalani, who have 5 rand coins in a piggy bank in the ratio of 5 to 3. Okay, so Busani has the most, the 5, and Zalani has the least, 3. Alright, so Busani and Zalani have 5 rand coins in a piggy bank in the ratio of 5 to 3. Now, if you don't understand ratios at that point in time, you won't really know how much belongs to who. Okay, so it's very important to understand ratios, I emphasize again. So, altogether they have 40 coins. Okay, they have 45 rand coins. What I mean, they have 45 rand coins. So in total, how much do they actually have? They have 200 rand in their piggy bank. Okay, for a kid, that is like a lot of money. So altogether, they have 40 coins. Now, how many coins does each have in the tin? So you want to know how many coins are there for Busani and how many coins are there for Zalani. So we said that Busani has 5 parts and Zalani has 3 parts. Therefore, the total number of parts is 8. How does that help us? So it helps us to know the total number of parts. Why? Because Busani has 5 of the 8 of the 40 rand coins. Okay? And Zalani has 3 parts of the 8 total number of parts of those 40 rand coins. So this is where again we deal with fractions. So how do you calculate this? You have 5 over 8 multiplied by 40 over 1. Okay, I want to write 40 in its prime numbers. Okay, remember I said at some point we're going to have to deal with prime numbers and prime factors. So we have 5. 40 is 4 times 10. Okay, so if I have 4 and I have 10, I know that 4 is 2 times 2 if I write it in its prime factors, and 10 is 5 times 2. So I've written that in its prime factors, and you'll see why that's important. 8, on the other hand, is 2 times 4, and 4 is 2 times 2. So I have 2 times 2 times 2. How does this help me? It helps me because now I can cancel out. Okay, 2 divided by 2 is 1, 2 divided by 2 is 1, 2 divided by 2 is 1. So at the numerator, I have 1. Okay, anything divided by 1, remember we addressed this, a number divided by 1 or a number multiplied by 1 is just the number. All right, so what am I left with then on the numerator? Well, I'm left with 5 times 5, which is what? 25. Okay, so the answer then is 25 coins. Remember, that's what we're trying to look. How many coins does each have? So Busani has 25 coins. Now at this point in time, you can say, okay, if there were 40 coins in the beginning and Busani has 25, it means Zalani has 15. Okay, but let's go and calculate it for Zalani. So now we have 3 over 8 for Zalani multiplied by the 40 coins. Okay, 3 is already a prime number, so I'm just going to say 3. And remember, 40 is 4 times 10, 4 is 2 times 2, and 10 is 2 times 5. And in the numerator, we have 8, denominator, we have 8, which is 2 times 2 times 2. So let's cancel out. 2 divided by 2 is 1, 2 divided by 2 is 1, 2 divided by 2 is 1. So I'm left with 1 in the denominator. And anything divided by 1 becomes itself. Then I'm left with 3 times 5, which is what? 15 coins. Okay, so you see, ratios are not so bad. You can then calculate, okay, Busani has 25 coins. How much is 25 times 5? That's 125 Rand. And Zalani has 15 coins. What is 15 times 5? I think it's 75 Rand. I think. I should take a calculator and calculate. So yeah, 15 times 5, that's going to be 25. Yes, so 75 Rand for Zalani, and 25 times 5. Let's just make sure. They didn't ask us for this. I'm just doing this, That's 10, 125. So 125 Rand for Busani and 75 Rand for Zalani. And in total, they have 200 Rand, which is quite a lot for kids. Okay, so that is that one example. Let's look at another example. Okay, how we use ratios in real life so that you can relate. All right, so Tulu bakes by mixing sugar, cake flour, and butter in the ratio of 3:4. So for those who want to become pastry chefs or you just want to bake for your community and you want to know how many or how much of your ingredients you should buy, this is where ratios come into play. So yes, so sugar is 3, cake flour 4, butter 2. Okay, it makes sense for cake flour to have the majority of the ratio, right? We don't want sugar to be the highest or else it's going to be too sweet. So now it says if the total mass of the mixture is 18 kilogram, calculate the mass of each ingredient. Okay, so we're going to do this similar to what we had done before with getting how much money there will be, all right? So 18 kilogram is the total mixture, right? Total mass of the mixture. So there are 3 parts sugar, 4 parts cake flour, and 2 parts butter. So total parts there that we have, 3 plus 4 plus 2, it gives us 9 parts, which is great. Okay, so now if I want to know how much sugar out of the 18 kilogram I should buy, I'm going to say 3 parts out of 9. And I'm going to multiply by what? By 18. Okay. Cake flour, 4 parts out of 9 multiplied by 18, which is the total part. And then butter, 2 over 9, right? Which is going to be multiplied by 18 kilogram. So now I have 3 over 9 multiplied by 18 over 1. I'm going to write this in prime factor. So 3 is already a prime factor. 18 is 3 times 6. So there's a 3. And then 6 is 3 times 2. So 3 times 2. I hope you're following. And at the bottom, 9 is a multiple of 3, right? So 3 times 3. So how many parts of sugar, or what is the total mass that would be for sugar? If I start cancelling, 3 divided by 3 is 1, 3 divided by 3 is 1. Then I'm left with 3 times 2, which is 6. So sugar, I know I'm going to buy 6 kilograms of sugar. All right, I can budget quite well now that I know the quantities that are required. So now for cake flour, we have 4 over 9 multiplied by 18 over 1. So what are the prime factors for 4? Well, we have 2 times 2. And for 18, remember 18 is 3 times 6 and 6 is 3 times 2. And then in the numerator, we have 9 and that's just 3 times 3. So let's go and, remove what doesn't need to be there. So 3 divided by 3 is 1. 3 divided by 3 is 1. I'm left with 2 times 2, which is 4, times 2, which is 8. So now I have 8 kilogram of cake flour that I need. Okay? And then butter, which is 2 over 9 multiplied by 18. Another way you could do it, instead of writing it in prime factors, you can say 18 is actually 2 times 9 instead of using 3 times 6. So I have 2 times 2 times 9. And then in the denominator, I just leave 9 as it is. All right? And then I can cancel. 9 divided by 9 is 1. I have 2 times 2, so that is just 4 kilograms. There are many ways of doing these sums. Okay? Or you could have used a calculator and said, what is 2 times 18? That is 36. 36 divided by 9 is 4. Many ways. But I'm showing you the prime factors because that will come in very handy. Okay? So there we go. Now I know when I go to the shop, I need 6 kilograms of sugar. I need 8 kilograms of cake flour. And I need 4 kilograms of butter. It makes things quite easy for me to bake. All right, and then let's look at an exercise. So the question says, divide 500 in the following ratios. So you must try it first. Pause this video, try it yourself, and then we're going to do it together. Okay, so you'll just mark yourself. All right, so now we have a 3:2 ratio. All right, so what is the total number of parts? That's where we start when we do ratios. Okay, total number of parts will be the 3 plus 2, which is 5. And out of the 5, we're going to first look at this ratio of 3. So we have 3 parts out of 5 for this 500 Rand. And then we're going to have 2 parts out of 5 for this 500 Rand. And now we want to know how much is each. Okay, so what is 3 over 5? Multiplied by 5. Let's just do this. 3 over 5. These are already prime numbers. And then 500 is 5 times 100. I'm just going to leave it like that. 100 is definitely not the prime number. There's a whole lot there, so I'm not even going to split it up. And that's over 1. All right. So therefore, I can say 5 divided by 5, that's 1. So now I have 3 times 100 that's left, so that's 300. So I've already divided this 500 in the ratio. So I have 300, and as you probably can see that we're going to have 200 here, but let's calculate it. So we have 2 over 5, and we're going to multiply it by 500 over 1, which is just 5 times 100. over 1. So then we have there 200. So that's how we can divide 500 in the following ratio. So whoever's getting 3 parts gets 300. Whoever's getting 2 parts of the ratio will get 200. Now how about 2, 5, and 3? So we need to get the total number of parts. Okay. Therefore the total number of parts is 2 plus 5 plus 3. How many parts is that? That is 10 parts. Alright, so now we have 2 parts out of 10, we have 5 parts out of 10, and then we have 3 parts out of 10. And all of this we're multiplying by 500. Remember the question says we need to see how we can divide this 500 into its ratios. Okay, so once you hear it gets much easier. So you have 2 multiplied by this 500. 500 is 5 times 100. 100 is 10 times 10. I'm just going to separate it so that it's easy to cancel. Okay, so now 10 divided by 10, that's 1. So I'm left with 2 times 5, which is 10. 10 times 10 is 100. So 2 parts of that 10 will give us 100 Rand. How about 5 parts of that 10? So we have 5 times 500 is 5 times 10 times 10. Okay. Ooh. And we're going to divide that by 10. So 10 divided by 10 is 1. So 5 times 5 is 25. 25 times 10 is 250. And now 3 parts of 10. So I'm just going to say 3 times the 500. Again, I'm going to say 5 times 10 times 10. And that's going to be divided by 10. So 10 divided by 10 is 1. 3 times 5 is 15. 15 times 10 is 150. Alright, so that is how we were going to divide 500 with the ratio 2, 5, and 3. Okay, and then lastly, I think, yes, this is now the ratio 4, 1, 5. Alright, so we need to get the total number of parts. So it's 4 plus 1, which is 5, and 5 plus 5 is 10. So now we're going to say 4 out of 10, 1 out of 10. Running out of space. Let's just lift it up a bit. Okay, so we have 4 out of 10 parts, 1 out of 10 parts, and 5 out of 10 parts. I'm just going to multiply it quickly. So we have 500 Rand, so 5 times 10 times 10. Okay, so we divide the tens, and then 4 times 5 is 20. 20 times 10 is 200 Rand. Okay, so we have 1 over 10. And remember, we have 5 times 10 times 10. So we divide the 10. We're left with 5 times 10. So therefore, we have 50 Rand. And lastly, 5 over 10 of 500. Well, I'm going to piggyback over from what we already did before. So that will just be 500 divided by 10. That is 50. 50 times 5. That is 250. I hope at this point you have understood how we use ratios. Like I said, it's quite important. You will use it in the future. If you do forget, you know that there's a video you can always come back to and things can work out quite well. All right. We're going to look at other examples, all right, such as what do you do or how do you deal with increasing or decreasing in a given ratio. The previous examples, they were just showing us how to divide a total amount of something in a given ratio. But now, how do you deal when you are given a certain number and they ask you to increase it in a certain ratio? So, before we get to these examples, you can already see the answer. But if ever you are increasing in a given ratio, so let's say you have a ratio of 8 is to 9. So if ever you are increasing in a given ratio, you will put these values in fraction form, but the biggest number must be on top of the fraction. Okay, so this is for increasing. If you want to decrease in a given ratio, the biggest number must be in the denominator. All right, let's repeat that again. You are given a certain ratio. They've asked you for an increase. You will write those numbers in the ratio. For increasing, the biggest number is on the numerator. Okay, so for increasing scenario, the biggest number is in the numerator. All right, let me put a star. For decreasing scenario, the biggest number is in the denominator. And you'll see in the following example. So, a taxi fare to town was increased from 8 Rand in the ratio of 4:5. Okay, so keywords here, increased. And we have a ratio of 4:5. What is the new taxi fare? Like I said, if you're increasing, the biggest number must be on the numerator. So there we have 5/4 multiplied by 8. Okay, 5 is a prime number, 4 is just 2 times 2. 8/1, 8 is 2 times 4, and 4 is 2 times 2. So now we can say 2 divided by 2, 2 divided by 2, so we're left with 5 times 2, and now we have 10 Rand. So now the taxi fare has increased from 8 Rand to 10 Rand given this ratio. All right, luckily for us, when the taxi drivers increase the fare, they just tell us we are increasing from 10 Rand to 15 Rand. How they got there, yeah, that's a mystery to us. So at least in this case, they have given you their ratio. You kind of understand it is based on something, hopefully some research and petrol fare and the wear and tear of the taxi and whatnot. But anyway, and then the second example, it says, the price of a t-shirt was decreased in the ratio of 5:3. So keywords here, decrease. So when we write it in fraction form, where is the biggest number going? It is going in the denominator. So yes, the price of a t-shirt was decreased in the ratio of 5:3 from the original price of 120 Rand. So what is the new price? So the new price then would be 120 Rand multiplied by 3/5, because when we decrease, we go, the biggest number goes to the denominator. So 120, it's like 4 times 30. Let me see. Let's say 12 times 10. 12 times 10. And we know that 10 is actually 5 times 2. I'm sure you're wondering, why am I doing that? Why am I separating 120 like this? It's because there's a 5 in the denominator that I want to get rid of. Okay, and we're multiplying by this 3, and then in the denominator, here we have 1, and then we have 5. So if I were to start simplifying, 5 divided by 5 is 1. So now 12 times 2, or rather 12 times 5 is actually 60. Okay, no. What am I doing? I'm adding 2 and 3. Biggest error. So I have 12 times 2 times 3, which is actually 12 times 6. And that is 72 Rand. Oh my goodness. So yes, now the price of the new t-shirt after it has been decreased in this ratio is actually now going to be 72 Rand. So yeah, that is great. That is actually a nice discount. Sometimes, in a shop, just to make sure that, everybody's on the same page, they put the reduced price. They don't leave it to you to calculate, okay? So don't worry about that. So yeah, now let's go to exercise 2. And it says, a school has 30 teachers and 900 learners. Okay, so there's a ratio of teachers to learners. Obviously, you're expecting a lot of learners compared to the teachers, because in a class, you might find that for one teacher, there's like 30 learners or something. But anyway, the first question says, write the ratio of the teachers to learners in a simplified form. So, and you use a different colored pen. Initially, we have 30 teachers to 900 learners. So now I need to find what the highest common factor is. Remember? Highest common factor. So what are the factors of 30? Ooh, this is going to be squeezed. We have 1 and 30. We have 2 and 15. We have 3 and 10. 4, no. 5 and 6. Okay, so 7, 8, 9, no. So those are the factors of 30. What about the factors of 900? So we have 901. Okay, 1 and 900. And then we have 2 and 450. We have 3 and 300. Whew, this is going to take forever. Does 4 actually, is it a factor? I don't believe so. Okay. Oh, actually, it is. We have 4. Please just use your calculator here. 4 and 2 to 5. 5, yes, it should be a factor because, yeah, it's 900. So that would be 180. So 5 and 180. 6, I'm not so sure. It could be. I don't know. Okay, yes, it's 6 and 150. Oh, my word. Are we going to finish? 7, I don't believe it will be without a remainder. 8, I also don't believe it will. But 9, definitely. 9 and 100, right? Oh, my word. This is going to take forever. I'll show you a simplified way, but yeah. So 9, and then we have 10 and 90. Okay, we're looking for the highest common factor. What is the highest common factor for 30? It's actually 30. Okay, so I'm trying to get to 30 here. So what does that tell us? It will tell us that the highest common factor for both 900 and 30, it should be 30. So let's just say we went through 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and we reached all the way to 30. So now what do I need to multiply 30 by in order for me to get 900? Well, it's going to be 30. So therefore, we can then conclude that the highest common factor is 30. And remember our ratio? This is 30 to 900. So if we now divide by the highest common factor, our simplified form will be 1 is to 30. So for one teacher, there are 30 students. So yes, in a case like this, where you see you have a very big number, and to get the highest common factor, you're going to have to work out a lot of factors. I would rather suggest you take the numbers that were given. So we have 30 to 900. If 30 is a multiple or a factor, not a multiple, 30 is a factor of 900, then you don't have to go and look for the highest common factor. This 30 is your highest common factor. So what you do, you will then divide 30 both sides, and then you're left with 1 on the left hand side and whatever the remainder is on the right hand side. So yeah, this is a 1 to 30 ratio. For one teacher, you have 30 learners. Okay, I don't know if we have to write it like that. Yeah, it would be great. So for one teacher, you have 30 learners. I didn't give myself enough space here. Now it says, if the number of learners increases in the ratio of 5 to 8, key word here, increases to the ratio 5 to 8, what will the new number of learners be? So we take the number of learners, which are 900. So the new number of learners will be equal to the 900 multiplied. Remember, if it increases, you have your fraction. The biggest number is on the numerator. Okay, so we have 900 times 8 over 5. All right, so if you don't have your calculator, you can then say, if I want to get, I know I wrote it here, 5 times 180 will give me 900. Okay, so yeah, I will then have 5 times 180 times 8 divided by 5. Why? I want the 5s to actually cancel out, and then I'm left with 180 times 8. Alright, so I'm going to need a calculator there. Okay, 180 times 8 is equal to what? Let's just actually work it out quickly. This is like, you're actually like doing revision. So 0 times 8, that's 0. 8 times 8 is 64. 1 times 8 is 8. 8 plus 6 is 14. Okay, so there we go. 1,440. So this is how much the number of learners increased. So that's going to increase our ratio then. All right. So instead of one teacher having 30 learners, now we're going to have more than that. All right. If you want to figure it out, you can say for every 30 teachers, there are 1,440 learners. So divide by 30 both sides. And I'm not going to do long division here, okay? You can use your calculator. We can, but I'm just looking at time. So now for every one teacher, you would actually now get 48 learners. All right. So that's basically how we're going to sort that out or work that out. And that is it. I really hope that you have enjoyed learning about ratios and all these exercises. This was really fun. So we'll see you next on the topic of rate.